Hi viewers, welcome you once again to Micro Learning. This is Shailaja with class 11 Economics, Introduction to Microeconomics. So previously we have seen regarding the four great economists Adam Smith, Alfred Marshall, Lionel Robbins, Paul Samuelson and their contribution towards economics. So when the subject economics came into existence, there was a confusion whether to put it into arts or whether to put it into science. And each economist argued on this basis. Later on, we saw the different types of goods like private goods, public goods, capital goods, durable goods, perishable goods, and we saw about the services. So today we are going to see lesson number 1, Introduction to Microeconomics. We are going to see 1.5.2. Now let us see what are the characteristics of utility. First characteristic is supposed to be utility is psychological. Okay, utility. For example, you are a vegetarian. Okay, that vegetarian does not have any utility on non-veg at all. Okay, it is only a mental attitude of an individual. So utility is psychological, that is a man's thinking. Next is utility is not equivalent to usefulness. Okay, there are some people who smoke. Okay, they know very well it is not good for health and it is for others also it is harmful. It is not usefulness at all. So utility is here for this example is not usefulness. Then utility is not a pleasure. Okay, now for example you fall sick. Okay, you have a headache or a fever. You go to the close medical shop, you buy medicines. Okay, a normal person will he take fever medicines? Not at all. A person who is not feeling well only will take up the medicine. Okay, it gives him only pleasure. He does not give it, that does not give any pleasure for an ordinary man who is perfectly fit. Next one is utility is personal and it is relative. Okay, entirely utility is supposed to be personal. I like to have biryani. I like to eat it now. Okay, it changes from person to person. Utility. Okay. Next one is utility is a subjective concept. Okay. So what is subjective said? We cannot measure it numerically as such. Do you understand? It is only on our mental. It's all lying on our mental thinking. Next is utility has a ethical or moral significance. What does it tells you about moral significance? Cooking device utility. Cooking person requires knife. Okay, whether you are a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian, both of us use knife as such. So that commodity has some utility. It has what you can say. Okay, a teacher derives utility from teaching, using a chalk piece, using a board. Same way, a knife can be used by a cook. Only he has some significance on using that particular equipment. Next is we are going to see what are the different types of utility. What is the first one? Form utility, time utility, place utility, service utility, possession utility, knowledge utility. So these are the different types of utility. Now let us see what is the first one. Form utility. Okay, now cotton is there. Cotton is supposed to be a raw material. Is it of any use to the consumer? No. But if you give it to an industry, what happens? They convert that into cloth and give it to you back. So that is the finished product is useful for a consumer. But when it is a raw material, it is useful only for the person who is going to do that particular business. Now next is time utility. Okay, time utility. For example, a sick man is there or an accident has occurred. He needs blood. So a donor gives blood. So this is time utility. Next is place utility. We have a book. If you are going to use it, it is useful for your studies. When you place it in a library, it is not taken quite often. Very rarely only it is taken. So what happened when it is come to studies, it is useful for a student. When it is placed in a library, it is useful for everyone, those who come towards the library. Now what is service utility? Doctor's service towards the patient, lawyer's service towards his clients, okay, teacher's service towards his students. This is called as service utility. Now what is possession utility? Possession utility, if you have to say, there are grains. When there are grains, it is useful for a farmer. When it comes as rice, it is useful for the consumers. So that is called as possession utility. Next is knowledge utility. Okay. Now let us see what is form utility. An individual consumes, obtain utility from the goods and services. If it is a raw material, it is not useful for a consumer. But when it becomes a finished product, it is useful, it provides utility for him. Example, cotton of raw material. Okay, when it becomes cloth, it is useful for the consumer. This is called as form utility. Now what is time utility? A sick man is there. Okay, a sick man is there. Okay, utility from blood at the time of its donation. But especially when do you use this? During operation time, it is useful. This is time utility, a need of an hour. Place utility. Okay, student derives place utility from a book because it is useful for his education. Service utility. Okay, here you have service by lawyers, okay, service by doctors. All this we call it as service utility. What is possession? When a student buys a book or dictionary from a bookseller, then it gives utility because the student is going to refer day to day new words. How about knowledge utility? How do you gain knowledge? By reading newspapers. Okay, advertisement is also serving us by giving information. This is called as knowledge utility. Now there will be a question for you. Can utility be measured? Yes, Marshall states that utility can be measured, not directly but indirectly. And he says measuring rod of money. With this we can measure utility. So, can utility be measured? If they ask you, say yes. Marshall says that utility can be measured by using measuring rod of money. So, we have a worksheet. What is utility? What are the characteristics of utility? What are the different types of utility? What is form utility? What is time utility? What is place utility? What is possession utility? When you write this, always write with examples. Okay, that is important for you. So those who are watching the channel for the first time, please subscribe, click on to the bell button for further notification, and please support me. Thank you.